This question says 1 mole of an ideal monoatomic gas at some temperature T and a volume of 3 liters expands to a volume of 6 liters against a constant external pressure of 2 atmosphere under adiabatic conditions. Then the final temperature of the gas will be. Right. So, what do we have when we have these questions? We have to first identify the process. See, the fact that here external pressure is given as a constant, right? So, constant external pressure of 2 atmosphere tells me this is a irreversible process, right? So this is on top of that, anyways, it is given adiabatic. So this is irreversible adiabatic process that is taking place. Now in an adiabatic process, we know that Q is equal to 0, right? So delta U will be equal to W from first law. Delta U is supposed to be Q plus W. Q is 0, so delta U should be equal to W, but we know W as minus P external delta V in an irreversible process, right? Minus P external dV integration, P external is constant, comes out of integral sign, so we get minus P external into integral dV, which is minus P external delta V. This we have to remember anyways. Irreversible, this is straightforward, right? So what is delta U? General formula that we can always remember for delta U is that it is NCV molar delta T, right? So NCV molar delta T, and it is expansion, so temperature is going to decrease, and NCV molar delta T is supposed to be equal to minus P external delta V minus 2 atmosphere into delta V, final volume minus initial volume is 3 liters, right? So this is what we have. NCV molar delta T is equal to minus 6 liter atmosphere, right? So now we had 1 mole of a gas, and that was a monoatomic gas. So monoatomic gas, CV molar is 3 by 2 R, right? So 1 into 3 by 2 R into delta T, which is T final minus T, is supposed to be equal to minus 6 liter atmosphere. So accordingly, if I take R in liter atmosphere per mole per Kelvin, what I can see here is that T final minus T is equal to minus 6 into 2 by 3, right? So how much is this? The R is also there. So I'm going to get 12 by 3, 4 by R, right? So minus 4 by R. So T final will be equal to T minus 4 by R is what we are getting, right? Yeah, 12 by 3R is 4 by R only, right? So what we are getting is T minus 12 by 3R or T minus 4 by R, which is option B. This question says a reaction mixture containing H2N2 and NH3 has a partial pressure of 2 atmosphere, 1 atmosphere and 3 atmosphere respectively. H2N2 and NH3. Okay. If the value of Kp for this reaction is 4.28, N2 plus 3H2 giving us 2 NH3, this reaction is 4.28 into 10 to power minus 5 atmosphere to power minus 2 at 725 Kelvin. In which direction will the net reaction go, right? So yeah, what is happening here is we have this reaction, their individual partial pressures at this point in time is given, and Kp value is also given. So this is a reaction quotient based question, right? So we find Qp, which has the same same form of writing it as Kp. We calculate the Qp at this point in time. If it is greater than Kp, we know reverse reaction net direction will be in the reverse direction. If it is less than Kp, we know that the net reaction will now be in the forward direction. If Qp is equal to Kp, we say it is already in equilibrium. So what is the reaction here? N2 plus 3H2 giving us 2NH3, and the current partial pressures are given to us. H2 was 2, N2 was 1, and your NH3 was given to us as 3 atmosphere, right? So these are the individual partial pressures given. Let's calculate Qp, and Qp will turn out to be equal to pressure of ammonia square divided by pressure of N2 to power 1 into pressure of H2 to power 3. Same expression as K equilibrium or Kp. It's just that whatever is the current pressure is what we substitute out here. So what do we get? We are going to get what? Pressure of ammonia square, right? So 3 square divided by pressure of nitrogen is 1 into pressure of hydrogen cube. Pressure of hydrogen partial pressure is 2 atmosphere. Cube will be what? 8 atmosphere, right? So 1 into 8 is what? 8 only, right? So what I have here is 9 by 8. Obviously this is not a very small value, right? Kp is way smaller. Kp is in the range of 10 to power minus 5, which means that the current amount of ammonia is way larger. The current partial pressure of ammonia is way larger. So obviously it has to, net reaction will be in the reverse direction so that Qp can reduce and eventually become equal to Kp. So the net reaction direction is obviously B, because Qp is much greater than Kp. Okay, this question says the character of increasing the uh, yeah, so we are looking at the increasing S character percentage in the hybrid orbitals below, right? Okay, we'll have to assume that the hybrid orbitals are exactly equivalent is what we have been asked. So we are looking at the increasing S character, right? So order of increasing S character in these hybrid orbitals is what we want. So let's see, what are these hybrid orbitals? Let's try to find out, right? So once we know the hybrid orbitals, we should be able to predict the percentage S character, right? So what do we have? We have, like, first one is carbonate. So in order to get hybridization, what do? We can find out the steric number. Once we know the steric number, we can find out the hybridization, right? So how do we find out steric number? Steric number is half of valence shell electrons plus monovalent atoms minus charge divided by, I mean, half of this, right? So when I'm looking at carbonate, I can see that the steric number, how much will that be? Half of valence shell electrons, carbon is 4, no monovalent atoms, minus charge is minus 2. So minus minus will become plus 2. So 6 by 2 is 3, which means that this thing is sp2 hybridized, right? Now XeF4, what will I say? Steric number will be half of xenon, right? Noble gas, 8 valence shell electrons are there, plus 4 monovalent atoms, fluorine, no charge. So yeah, 8 plus 4 is what? 12 by 2 is 6, which means this is sp3d2, right? Now I3 minus. I3 minus, what can I say? I3 minus would mean that iodine is the central atom on which two other iodine atoms are attached. Iodine is, of course, what? Iodine is, of course, a halogen, and in halogen you will be having 7 valence shell electrons, and then other than my central iodine atom, there are 2 iodine atoms that are attached, so plus 2 and minus 1 minus, so minus minus will become plus. So 7 plus 2 plus 1 is what? 10 divided by 2 is 5. So this is sp3d hybridization. And the last one, the fourth one that we have is NCl3, nitrogen, right? 15th group, 5 valence shell electrons, so half of 5 plus 3 chlorine atoms, all of them are monovalent, right? And there is no charge. So 5 plus 3 is 8 by 2 is 4, which means this is sp3 hybridization. And the fifth one that we have is BeCl2 in gas phase. Good that it is mentioned. In solid phase, it has that what you call as sp3 kind of hybridization. Here it will be obviously half of beryllium valence shell electrons 2 monovalent atoms, no charge. So obviously 4 by 2 is 2, which means this is sp hybridization, right? So in gas phase, in solid phase, we know that it forms like that polymeric kind of a situation where you have sp3 hybridization. But yeah, looking at these now, percentage S character increase is what I'm seeing. The least percentage S character will be, see, all of these hybrid orbitals have only one S orbital. More the number of orbitals, what is percentage S character? Percentage S character in all of these, you can see only one S is there. So number of orbitals, number of S orbitals by total number of orbitals into 100, right? So total number of orbitals into 100. So 100 by total number of orbitals is basically percentage S character in all of these, right? So 100 divided by, in the first one, if I see, I have 3 orbitals, so 100 by 3, 33% is what I'll see here. In XeF4, I have 6 orbitals, right? So 100 by 6, 16% or something is what I can think of, right? And in sp3d, I have 5 orbitals, so 100 by 5, 20% is what I'm going to see here. And in sp3, there are 4 orbitals, so 100 by 4, 25% S character. And in sp, there are 2 orbitals in all, so 100 by 2, 50% S character is what I'm going to see. So what is the least I'm seeing? It is in the second one, where only 1 out of 6 hybrid orbitals is S orbital. And then after that I have 3, then after that I have 33, so that is 1. And then after that, no, Yeah, I have 25 before that, so 4, right? So I'm getting 2, 3, 4, 1, and then last is 5, right? So last has to be 5. I can see that here. I can see that here. 2, then 3 is what I wanted, right? So 2, 3, 4, 1, and 5. Wow. So A option is the correct answer for an increasing order of percentage S character. Let's read the question. The value of n of the highest excited state that an electron of hydrogen atom in ground state can reach when 12.09 electron volt energy is given to the hydrogen atom is, right? So we need to find out if I'm giving like energy 12.09 electron volt to to a hydrogen atom, to the electron in a hydrogen atom in its ground state, till where can it jump? This is the idea, right? So what do we know? I mean, see, as far as the electron is concerned, we know that electron in an atom has very well defined, I mean in a hydrogen like system, in fact everywhere, has very well defined energy levels that it can take. Specifically what we call as Bohr model, in Bohr model where we have single electron systems, there are these very specific energies that are available for an electron to pick up, and these obviously these exact energies that are required for transition from one step to another is the only energy that an electron can absorb. So if it is possible that this 12.09 is able to take an electron to a state where which is acceptable to us, it is one of the energy levels that are acceptable to us, then we can find that value. The idea is, obviously we can say that energy of transition here is 12.09. That energy is taking electron from ground state to some other higher energy state. So what do we know about electron in ground state? We know that for n is equal to 1, minus 13.6 electron volt is what is the total energy of an electron, right? Total energy of an electron in ground state of hydrogen atom is ground state being n is equal to 1 is minus 13.6. If I am giving 12.09, and if it doesn't, I mean if this final energy of electron, if it is not something that I can relate with, then I'll say that okay, this electron is not going to absorb 12.09. It will not be jumping anywhere, it will stay in its ground state only. But yeah, if it is absorbing, what will be the final total energy? So initial total energy was minus 13.6. I'm giving 12.09, so the final total energy will be minus 13.6 plus 12.09, which turns out to be equal to minus 1.51 electron volt. Now, if this is equal to some energy, total energy in nth level, then I can say that electron will jump to n, right? So minus 1.51, if it is equal to, what is the formula for total energy? Minus 13.6 into z square upon n square, right? So minus 13.6 into z square upon n square electron volt. Z is of course equal to 1, so I can ignore this part. So what do I get? I'm going to get n square to be equal to, minus minus will obviously cancel out. I'll get 13.6 divided by 1.51, which turns out to be equal to 9, which means that n is equal to 3, which means that the electron in ground state, if it is given exactly 12.09, it can jump to the third energy level, third state, which means that our correct answer is option C. This question says a 20 ml of a 0.02 molar CH3COH acetic acid is titrated with 0.2 molar NaOH solution. Find the pH of the solution when 80 ml of NaOH has been added. That's a lot of NaOH. Let's see, right? So this should be a very strongly basic solution because concentration I see is also higher and volume is way higher. So I'm guessing this is a strongly basic solution. I'm guessing it should be 13.2, but yeah, let's see. Cool. So what do we have here? The reaction is between a weak acid, acetic acid, and a strong base NaOH. All neutralization reactions go on to completion. We'll get salt and water. The weak acid, strong base, salt, sodium acetate, and water is what we get. So to a molarity into volume in ml gives us number of millimoles, right? So 20 into 0.02 means that I have taken 0.4 millimoles, 0.4 millimoles of CH3COH, and NaOH is 0.2 into 80, which is 16 millimoles, right? So you can see here outright 1:1 mole ratio. So NaOH is way too much in excess. So this is the limiting reagent. CS3COH will be completely consumed. Zero point 0.4 moles, a millimole of CS3COH will react with 0.4 millimoles of NaOH. I'm going to get 15.6 millimoles of NaOH remaining, right? And I will be seeing the formation of 0.4 millimoles of sodium acetate as well, right? Now, sodium acetate is going to be a salt where salt hydrolysis can take place. This is a weak acid strong base salt, so it will turn out to be a basic solution. We know how to find pH if this was alone present in the solution. But think about this. What is the what do you call as hydrolysis of an ion that we see? This is the reaction that takes place, right? CS3CO minus plus H2O giving you CS3COH plus OH minus. This is an equilibrium. This does not happen a lot. Equilibrium constant KH is Kw by Ka. This is a very small value, so this does not happen a lot. But even if 100% of hydrolysis had taken place, 1 mole is still going to give me only 1 mole of OH minus, right? So 0.4 millimole would have given me a maximum of 0.4 millimoles, right? Nothing more than that. But I already have 15.6 millimole of OH minus from NaOH. Why would I even try to consider the CH3CONA hydrolysis OH minus? It's not required, right? So in this question, way too much NaOH is there, and strong base is going to dominate all the pH characteristics at least. So here I can directly say OH minus is entirely coming from NaOH, and concentration is what? Number of millimoles by volume in ml. So 15.6 millimole is what I'm taking as OH minus. I'm ignoring this OH minus coming from hydrolysis because it is anyways not going to happen a lot. A little bit I was probably going to get. I don't want that because 15.6 is way more than that, right? So 15.6 divided by total volume in ml, 20 plus 80 would mean 100 ml in all, right? So OH minus concentration, I'm getting it as 0.156 molar, right? So what is asked? We have been asked the pH. So pOH I have to see, right? First pOH will be negative log of 0.156. Okay, 0.156. Roughly I can take it as maybe 1 by 6. 0.16 would be 1 by 6. 0.6666 would have been 1 by 6. Whatever, I mean 0.15 I can maybe take it as 0.3 by 2. I don't want to exactly calculate the exact value, but yeah, if I assume it to be 0.15, what would have happened? This can be written as minus log of 0.3 by 2. Now taking this negative inside, right? Minus log x is log of 1 by x, so I can write this as log of 2 by 0.3, or I can also write it as log of 20 by 3, which means this is equal to log 20 minus log 3, which is how much? Log 20 is 1 plus log 2, 1 plus 0.3, 1.3 minus log 3 is 0.48, right? So this is around 0.82, right? 1.3 minus 0.48 is 1 minus 0.18, which is 0.82. Now this is pOH, we need pH. pH is pKw minus pOH. Is it given 25 degrees C? No, but yeah, whatever. So I'm assuming pKw to be 14 minus 0.82, so I'm getting it to be 13.18, right? So 13.18 is the pH that I'm getting, which is obviously very close to the answer given here, A, which is 13.2.